Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Smadacharya Paryandam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sagna Vavadu, Sagna Punaktu, Sakaviryam Karavavakai, Tejaspina, Vatidamastuma, Vatvishabhakai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham, Malam Sarirasya Chavaitikena. Yopa Karuttam Prabharam Munina Patanjali Pranjali Manatosmi. Good morning. In the last class, we did the Sutra 21, Tadarthayeva Drishyatma. So that Drishyam, whatever is seen in this world, is only for the seer. And I think if you are an experiencer, you must have an object of experience. The object of experience is useless if there is no experiencer. Understand? So we saw that. So subsequently from then onwards, from 22 to 27, Patanjali is going to literally, I would say, concludes Yoga Darshana, because he brings down all the essence into that and draw a line. Then from 23rd Sutra onwards, he starts what is called Ashtanga Yoga, which is quite popular and prasiddham, and which is very beneficial. We should learn. But there is a very clear line of demarcation that he completes what we need to know by the 27th Sutra. And then from 28th onwards, he is giving the upayams to Hana upayams. He is giving, which for us to practice, which is basically the import of Sadhana Padha. So hopefully I thought I'll try to finish it by today, but let's see. But interestingly also, I received a couple of questions, and I thought it may be useful to explain those questions and within my limited knowledge to give you some answers, because, sometimes listening is more powerful than reading a book. You take a book and reread it, but if the same thing somebody is talking, you listen to it, your mind absorbs more. Don't ask me why. But when you ask questions, it is more effective because it actually commits to your brain. Because, when you travel in a long journey, you don't remember everything in the journey. But if you take a break and you have a coffee, you talk to somebody there, and that diversion, still in the same pursuit, makes it much more interesting. So I encourage questioning and I encourage seeking answers. Of course, right questions makes it a lot more interesting. Right question doesn't mean that the question gives an opportunity for the answerer to give you, show off his knowledge. No, that's not the way I say. Right question is a question that actually resolves a problem for a questioner. In the learning pursuit, if you have I call it niggling questions. It's a very interesting problem. You can't sleep with this. When you have a question like that, for you, it's the right question. So I know Muthukesh even asked me a very interesting question on Drishimatra, which we saw in the 20th Sutra. And also, I think I saw one question from Panchavakation about the Purusha. So I thought maybe I would take some time, try to go back to this Sutra and talk about the Drishimatra. And then also to talk about the Purusha, because we are not learning for scholarship, this Sankhya philosophy. We don't want that. We are learning this to get the upayas to go to the Vedanta. So some of the interpretation that you see in the Yoga Sutras in Tantric or Sankhya philosophy may not really corroborate with what we are trying to say. So there's nothing wrong, but the objective of understanding is very different. So therefore, I think I'll take a few minutes. But I think it's a very hard subject, but I try to make it as simple as possible. So please be with me on this. So what did we see? Drishta drishi matraha shuddho api pratyaya anupasyaha. So he said, Drishta, the one who's a seer, is drishi matraha. He said the drishi matraha. Drishi is not even a proper word under the Panini's grammar. It's just a root. Drishi is a root. So he is even afraid to add anything to it to make it ashuddha. He's just using the word drishi. That power of seeing, the see power, we call it. So the drishta, the seer, is just pure see power. And because of that, the drishi matra is shuddha, suchi, unadulterated, undiluted, nirvikaraha, never changing. Even though, pratyaya anupashyaha. Pashyaha means seeing, anupashyaha means seeing continuously. How do we see continuously? In the buddhi, pratyaya in the buddhi. The buddhi, I see it that I am the seer. This person, this Raja, for example, I am the seer. I have an identity for myself. Even though that knowledge comes to me from the drishi matraha, even though it looks like it is colored, limited, but it is shuddham. Therefore, it is giving you an insight that you are not who do you think you are. The perceiver in you is not you. The faculty of perception, the power of perception is you. It's a bit frightening to us because when you talk about a drishi shakti, a power, we know energy we don't really consider as an entity to deal with, isn't it? We consider energy as a force. So if I am just energy, not the applicator of energy, not the embodiment of that, it's uncomfortable for us, right? Well, this is the problem. Pratyaya anupasyaha. Now, the question that Tukeshan asked is, how do we make the drishi matraha that you are saying it is the see power only? How do you know that it exists? It's a very good question. This question is not just his question. His question has been there forever. It will be there forever. Because energy, is it natural or it is culminating by the composition of some yoga? Now, we had to go to Vedanta for this, to explain this. And his question also, can I do it by pratyaksham and anumanam? Pratyaksham, remember pratyaksham means what? By my sensory perceptions, by seeing it. So he's basically asking, can I see the see power? Okay. You see the problem there, right? You can't see the see power because if you want to see a see power, you are seeing it. But this doesn't cut very well, right? If you go to the great acharyas, they will say, don't ask this question. This is Upanishad says so. Agama pramanam. Well, it doesn't cut because, we think we are more rational. So we need to have some sort of inferences, a scientific approach to do that. So just taking how Shankara explained in several places, I try to bring it in a very simple form. Let's see it. So the most objective one is the world. So we see the world of objects. That's where Drishyam comes in. The see power, we know see power exists because something to see. If there's nothing to be seen, you don't see, you have a see power, right? So there's an anyonyam there. So granted. So world of objects exist, tangible proof, we know it exists. But then, if you analyze this world of objects, what does science tell you? That it is made up of elemental space. This is science, tangible science. And in scriptures, in Vedanta, we call it 5 elements, Panchabhuta. Now, there's a lot of conversion here. Science may not call it Panchabhuta, but it may call it in a different particles. But they're trying to figure out, but everything, whether it is a material object, solid, gaseous, liquid, any state of affairs, doesn't matter. When you decompose them, it appears in science objectively as elemental science. So therefore, we are moving from the very tangible objects of the world into more or less tangible or inductible, deducible elements of the world. So you see, we are now moving from, we're moving the Pratipasava, we're moving from gross to subtle. The knowledge of gross things is gross knowledge. Knowledge of subtle things, subtle knowledge. So science is going towards subtlety more and more and more, because science is a pursuit of truth. See, you can't say I'm in pursuit of God, science is pursuit of truth. We don't match each other. We are wrong. I think the better name for God is truth. Why? Because if you ask somebody, do you look for God? Do you search for God? Do you like God? Do you respect God? The answer could be many. But if you ask, do you like truth? Even a robber will say, I want my partner in robbery should be a truthful person, because truth is predominant. So therefore, we say, truth is what science is searching. Now, so in these 2 steps, there's no difference. But when you go and search more and more and more, it becomes mystical. And scriptures are more brave when they use the word. This is Maya. Everything is Maya. Now, this is a taboo, even in some of the spiritual schools. Oh, Maya. No, there's nothing like Maya. There's no illusion. It's all real. But go to science. They keep on dissecting it. After some time, in very front of their eyes, the physical elements are gone. They disappear. They know that no, they cannot disappear because I am searching it. I'm holding it. Then a true scientist say, my faculties of knowing it and protection is gone. Because nature is playing a trick. I'll reach my limit of seeing things with my senses. But I am a keen pursuer. I am a rishi. I am a scientist. Therefore, I will take this into a scientific model. Inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, physical model. The more finds a mathematical model. So I convert that object into a model. So the COVID virus, they keep on cutting it in tangible part. Then they have to go in the lab and look at the mathematical model, organic model for it. Because it disappears and it comes back. What do you want to call it? You can't call it science, because science is objective. Here there's no object at all. Object is gone. So the scientific pursuits enter into the realm of Maya. We are in the Maya every day. When we say, you are my wife, you are my children, you are my son, you are my friend, it's Maya. Now what we say, don't say it. This is dry philosophy. This is an object of my experience, my love. Yes, you love it, but it will disappear. Maya. As a scientist, when you enjoy it, when a scientist is doing it, when the object disappears, he gets joy because he's in the right track, because he's driving it crazy. It goes from the gross form to subtle form. It's trying to hide from me. So I am in the right pursuit. I get joy. But in samsara, When things disappear, we get sorrow because of some yoga. Okay, now you can see science induction, our spiritual induction, the same path. We are stopping in science here. We are still trying to find out what is going on. Now, Sanatana Dharma start giving you a different approach to this. Well, it's all happening mystical. Everything must have a cause. Science is completely agreeing with this. Nothing can be random. Nothing can be accidental. No effects can be there without a cause. That must be a cause. What is a cause? Vedanta says it's a divine play. Because everything has to have, let's take a loosely, let's say, what? A creator. The creator is now showing in one form and changed to another form and another form and another form. So this change is happening because this creator is playing a game. We call it divine play, Leela. Of course, we say it in so many words, no? Ambal, Leelavati, Mahavishnu's avatars and Shiva's Leela and so on. We put a lot of stories around it. The fact is, the so-called creator, the God, the Brahman, must be playing. I read many years back a little story about, a guy wrote about short stories and something which is really stuck in my mind. So he talks about the children's book it is, and he says, once upon a time, God was there on his own, because there's nothing exists in the world other than God. It's a biblical story, okay? God alone is there. But he was very bored, he or she, what do we want to say it? God was very bored. Nothing to do, just himself. So he needs to play. So therefore, he is all powerful. So he creates someone to play with. But it cannot be him, someone to play, because he is God. So he creates a non-God. Yeah, he created a non-God. He got something to play now. This, if God is called Chit, this Vilasam is the expansion or play, is what he created. Chit Vilasam. Ambad is called Vimarsha Rupini. Vimarsha, doesn't matter. Now, interesting, he says, since God is a perfect doer, whatever he does it 100%. Yeah? Otherwise, he is not God. Therefore, when he creates a non-God to play with, the non-God forgets that he is actually God, because God made it so perfect that he cannot think that he's God. You see now, it's a story, but if you really understand, it really unlocks something. So therefore, in the creation by the God, by his own will, we call it Ichha Shakti. This is why I think our Puranas are, so much to learn, so much of science. So the God creates a duplicate of himself, assigned him as a non-God position. Non-God means he cannot have the clarity of Chittam. He cannot be the God. Now, to propagate this, there are a lot of Puranas, a lot of stories. But then we say, look, this is not really giving me the comfort. It should be something more, because I'm looking for the true nature of things. Then he says, okay, if you understand this divine play, it allows you to come into this plane of thinking. And when you think of all these Puranas, all the stories, your questioning will come in your mind. Then it dawns on your mind, it's not the play. Because even if he creates something, how can he create something? From where he can create something? You can't go to a shop, you can't order something from Amazon to make it. Nothing exists. So he must have created something from himself. Therefore, everything that he creates must be himself. Therefore, if it is something insentient, inert, all this we say, Jada Shakti we say, all this rubbish because it comes from God. If God is all-knowing, omniscient, anything that comes from him should be omniscient. Is it not? Therefore, hold on to this thought, because when you go back to Vedanta, you will see there is nothing anatma, there is nothing atma, everything is one. So Vedanta is it's cheating, in a way, it just shows you one step, and once you understand, you think, I am settled now, it'll unsettle it. No, that is not true. Take the next step. And many, many great jnanis took comfort in certain seats. That's why Vedanta, especially Advaita Vedanta, does not take anything's wrong. Everybody takes a step and find comfort in the step. But this Advaita Vedanta is challenging everything else. Therefore, you move on. When you move on, you say, therefore, God is indwelling in everything else. If God creates, he creates from himself. If gold creates a necklace, gold creates a bangle. Therefore, gold is in everything, but in different form. Therefore, we say this is pervading consciousness, Chinmayam. Mayam means made up of, Anandamayam, Dukkhamayam. Why are you full of sorrow? Chinmayam, full of consciousness, full of awareness. Now, when I say this, you may think in your mind, there is some sort of a domain, and then consciousness fills it up. So my brain is a domain, consciousness fills it up. If you got a domain in your brain, if you have a consciousness, I have a consciousness. Now your consciousness is better, mine is smaller. And this is where if you just take the Sankya's Darshana at the stage, it will stop there. You're going to see that. So, therefore, science also understands this one. There must be consciousness. There was a program in BBC a couple of days back about the black hole. Professor Brian Cox talk on this, and just one anecdote. And they talks about the black hole, and black hole is there, and it just like a monster's villain. He just take for breakfast every planet around it. It just eats up everything else. And he uses the word. When I was listening to him, if I just close the eyes, he's talking about Mundaka Upanishad and Sridhar Upanishad, everything like that. The space and time flows like a river into the black hole. His words. Space runs like a river, but space has to be contained somewhere. What is a container that holds a river? But the important point was everything that goes there, and are they completely dead, gone? So some says it comes out in another world in a spiral. But the science proves mathematically today that everything, including light, get absorbed in the black hole. They are just mere information. Just think about it. Prakriti Layam, Vasanas, Samskaras. It's all gone. Just information is there. Information is Jnanam, Chinmayam. So just an information, just a DNA sequence, you can produce a protein. So there may be a time where by information, people can produce human bodies. It is there in Puranas. We laugh at it, right? We laugh at it. But science will go there because the information is the key. But the information is not inert information. It is consciousness. But again, it looks like consciousness is indwelling inside something. Therefore, it is contained. If something is contained, the container is bigger than the contained, is it not? So it gives you a sense of lower priority to Chit. But then once you ask the question, no, it is nothing but Chinmatram, Rishi Matra. Everything is consciousness. Now, this is This is what, as far as I can take you from Shankara's word, by induction. There is no agama pramanam here. It's just going by logic. You would see everything else should be consciousness. So therefore, instead of thinking consciousness filling inside me, or if you want to call it Atma, to make it simple, inside I have an Atma. Let me write. Inside a bangle, there is gold. You don't say it. Gold is the bangle. Atma is I. It's not inside. I am Atma. My Swarupam is Atma. I am in Atma. Everything is Atma. The space is in Atma. Time is in Atma. Therefore, Drishi Matra. So therefore, it is not that when you understand, you realize you become vaporized and you go nowhere. You can be anywhere. You can be in any form. Then you play the game with God. See, now God is God. God now, you know the ploy now. Basically, God has created you so that you can play with him. But you take a role of non-God. See, if you approach God, then God is your playmate. He's not a monster or not a leader or a boss. You know, you have to be a servant to him all the time. You can serve him, that's fine. But he's Rasakrida, Leela. Play with me. You are not God. That's what I have given a role to you. Your job is therefore to say, hey, God, no, I am God. Come on, play. I tie your eyes with my illusion of Maya. Go on, break it. See, if you approach it, life becomes so beautiful. You know, the sorrows that you feel, the impediments that you see, the challenges that you see, it's a part of the game. Well, don't go and tell somebody that suffering and say, look, I just come from Vedanta class and don't cry. You never say somebody is suffering, don't suffer. When somebody is angry, you don't say, don't be angry. You'll get more anger. Got to be quiet. And when they suffer through, when they look for an escape, then you tell them, look, this is a play. Okay. So I hope I answered the question. So Drishi Matra is therefore the thing. Next question, that was the question from Javkesh, was the Purusha. The Purusha is, which you're going to go next sutra. The Purusha, what is this Purusha? Purusha and Prakriti. We discussed the Prakriti so much. You know, we have so many different layers and, you know, and Prakriti Layam, we've gone through that. And we said Prakriti is Jadam, but it is eternal. It's always there. And there is a Purusha. The Purusha is knowledge. Drishi Matra. Now, I am asking you to think now in the Sankhya's way, right? Because you know the background of Vedanta. Now let's go back to Sankhya's mind. Sankhya said, see, the Sankhya school doesn't exist anymore. Shankara completely bombarded them. You see, Sankhya philosophy, Bhagavan uses Sankhya philosophy in Gita. Shankara uses it. It is not that an analytical approach is wrong. In everything, in everybody's life, generally, the step to a process is never wrong. It may be there may be some mistake, they correct it, course correction happens. But what is really impacting is the conclusion of it. Siddhantam is what suffers. So if somebody is building a roadway and is cutting all those things, and then you appreciate it, the road is built. At the end of the road, he builds a monstrous place where bad things happen. So the road is not a bad thing, but the concluding objective is not comfortable, right? So same way, I mean, in Sankhya philosophy, there's something not very conclusively good for Vedanta. So for Shankara opposed it and destroyed it in a positive way. But what it is there, you have many, many Purushas. So there are many Purushas, one Prakriti. So one Purusha, samyogam with the Prakriti, And Samyogam creates life and the form, and it creates all the problems. So Patanjali, takes the Sankhya philosophy, so he is, in a way, Patanjali is actually moving away from Kapila's idea, because Kapila, Sankhya, there's a good reason for why he was like that. He didn't bring God into the picture. There was a time when God was not important. You must get your job done. You must get your society cleaned up. Therefore, he was not talking about the God. But Patanjali said, look, now we need God. Therefore, he brought in Ishvara Pranidhana. But here, the Purusha affected to this Prakriti. And Patanjali say the Prakriti is undergoing changes. Therefore, you have the Sukha Dukkham come through. The Sukham is nothing but Dukkham parading as Sukham. Therefore, if you want to be free of this Dukkham, the goal is to be free of Dukkham. Don't have this attachment. Liberate. Liberation is Kaivalyam. Kevalam means all alone. Kaivalyam means you alone. Who alone? The Purusha alone. So when I don't have this connection with this, that means somehow I am disconnected from the cycle of samsara. Patanjali does not say, Patanjali goes more than that. I think the Vedantis take this Patanjali's Shudra to be a Vedantic meaning. Of course, they will do that. Others take differently. But if you just take Sankhya's philosophy, therefore, Purusha number one goes through all this and he got freedom. And what does he do? Don't know. He is free. But he is not. The next Purusha comes in and he gets free. So there are n number of Purushas get freedom, Kaivalya. And what do? They compare to each other. Which Purusha is better? Don't know. If they're all same, then why there are many? If there are differences, why there is a difference? In those days, it was taken, and you see, one thing we should understand, just because something is said many years back, that need not be right. So we don't need to be blindly follow heritage as it is. We need to ask questions. If the question did not ask, Krishna wouldn't have come. Buddha wouldn't have come. Shankara wouldn't have come. Ramanuja wouldn't have come. So Jains, for example, took this philosophy. You get moksha, nirvana, you get. And what you do, you float in a space. There's a space they define. You float. So you got nirvana. You float. For what? At least in the embodied state, I had some fun. That cannot be moksha. Even some Vedantic school take it, you are many Purushas, you can attain different logas and different powers, different manifestation. Okay. Again, you are sitting on a step which is not the terminal step. Yeah, maybe you may do that. That's not moksha. You are still playing the game of God. If you want to play, that's fine. No, you have to say, I want to play this game forever. Absolutely fine. Then you are a Jivan Mukta. You may come every time. You play the game. But the liberation is knowing who you really are. Therefore, we don't take this concept of multiple Purushas and all this. So therefore, Purusha is therefore we can take as Atma. Now, if you take that one, listen to me intently. If you take Purusha as Atma, then we are not able to interpret some of those Shudras positively. Because if Purusha is Atma, Asangatvam, there cannot be Samyogam. Purusha is Atma, it's always free. Why am I talking about the moksha? Why Purusha needs the moksha? It's always free, eternally free. So if I take Purusha as Atma, I have a little bit of a problem in interpreting it. Therefore, I need something. So Purusha is the one, Drishimatraha, the power of creating all the perception. If I am that, why should I look for freedom? I am free. Well, the reason you look for it, you really do not believe, or you're not convinced, do not realize you are Drishi Matra. That is true. I intellectually agree with you. You say, Raja, I agree with you intellectually. I think it's right, nice thing, but I'm not realizing I'm Drishi Matra. So there is a problem. So what we can do without complicating Vedanta, we can just go back and stick with this. I am a Purusha. I am Balaji. I am Raj. I am Prakash. I am this person. I need freedom. Therefore, I don't care about all this. No, we are not doing this for scholarship. No, I don't care about this philosophy. I just want to be free. So I am the Purusha. I am suffering. Let me take the yoga. You can take it. Perfectly fine. But a better way of doing it is, well, I need, therefore, something in between. So I am the Atma. I have not realized it. I must realize it. When I realize it, I don't have any problem. I have absolute moksha. But there is this world, Drishyam. So this Drishi Matra is doing something so that there is a person in between who thinks he is the seer. Now go back to the story I told you about the God's play. So you have created, you are God. You have created in your own mind many, many janmas that I am this person, this ego. Since you have created, since I have created, only you and I can remove this person. Nobody else can do it. This is the objective of life. This person I have created, now I need a word for it. We can use the word Jiva. We said Jivatma, let's just say Jiva. So there is a Jiva which is created. He is the non-God player. He is dealing with everything outside, Drishyam. Now I need to have this person in place. Now he is the Purusha, the notional Purusha. But this guy needs change because he is not aware. He doesn't know he is God. He's completely in dark. He takes Drishyam, the Samyogam happens where now? You see, we had a question, right? We had a question. If Atma is, as Atma cannot be asangatvam, how can Atma be with the thing? Ignorance. We're going to say, he's going to say the Hetu as avidya. No, there's a lot of debates in the Vedanta also. How can Atma be ignorant? If I am the Aham Brahmasmi, if I am the Atma, how can the avidya be in me? How can darkness be in the light? That's a bad example. Yeah, Vidya is ignorance. Vidya is knowledge. But Atma Chaitanyam knows both. Example. If I say, I do not know how to drive a car. So what am I saying? I have an ignorance. I don't know how to drive a car. But I know that I don't know how to drive the car. That's knowledge. See how the knowledge and ignorance sit together. You understand? You remember we talked in Tattva Bodha. Every knowledge is basically that you can know. Anything can be known, must be known, right? That is that. Anything can be eaten, we eat, right? So if anything can be known, we should know. So what you know, what you already know is known. What you can know, what you could know, but you do not know it yet, is unknown. So the learning in life is to make all unknown, or at least relevant unknown, to be known to you. But the unknown is infinite. Art is long, life is short. But we pursue. We try to keep on learning. So that is known, unknown. So anything that's knowable can be therefore already known or to be known. So therefore, you know what is known, what is unknown, mostly. But there is something called unknowable. It's not unknown, it's unknowable. Because you can never know it. Is there anything like that? There is something I should know. Science helps. I can write a program, I can do research. No, we go to billions of light years after we find a little planet. Unknowable before, but we know it. No, there's only one thing that is unknowable. You say God, I'll say the seer. Why you cannot unknowable? Can you prove it? So you will say, Paitri Upanishad says so. No. Don't give me agama, prove it to me. Then I say, because when you know something, what is happening there's a samyogam happens. What is samyogam there? Between the subject and the object. Object is what to be known. Subject is a knower. When the subject and object samyogam happens, samyogam means what? Sambandham, relationship. When it happens, knowledge comes in. Therefore, always you know an object. You can never know the knower. Because the moment if you objectify a subject doesn't exist. It becomes object. Therefore, the subject, the knower, is unknowable. Therefore, you can never know you. Don't get fooled by anybody who says, Atma Jnana will make you know you. You will not know you. That's why sometimes we say, I am sitting there and doing meditation. The light came in and my Atma comes in. Atma Prakasham comes in. If light comes in, you see it, it's your Brahma. Maybe a positive Brahma. It's not Atma. Because you cannot see it. Why? Because whoever is seeing is that Atma. You must take it some time to understand this one. This is what Bhagavan is saying, Ramana is saying all the time. So this, okay, I don't want to go that deeper. So therefore, what we're discussing now for the Purusha, there is a need for us to assume, rather deduce an entity called Jiva. Now I can go back to Sankhya and say, yeah, I agree with you. You see, Vedanta doesn't want quarrels. We want to find a way to take everybody's work and we stand on the shoulders of them. That's what we do. So we say, yes, I agree with you. There are infinite number of jivas. Jivas needs liberation. Jivas are confused. Jivas need moksham. Therefore, absolutely no qualms. Yes. Now, if I go back and take the Jain's view, therefore, if jivas are getting moksha and they are floating in the sky, they're as good as some madhas in we say in Shaktam or in our Sanatana Dharma. There are also schools who say, yeah, you become a Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Vaikunthavasi, Kailashavasi. Yeah, you're floating a different name. Jiva. They are not Brahman. Okay, if they're Brahman, why a Gandharva sees a woman on the earth and then he gets fascinated and get on the birth? Why is he have this desire? Every gods we have in the Puranas has got some problem. They always have some desire. They fall on the earth. It's not a joke. What he's saying is you can elevate yourself. You can become a perfect jiva. But unless you attain the Brahma Jnanam, you fall off. Or unless you become a divine player. You got a Brahma Jnanam, but you just play. That's fine. So therefore, we agree to that. So we are jiva, so therefore we need to clear it. But this is not coming out very clearly in some of those texts. But there is a school book called Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta is called Maharamayana. So it is let's not go through the history of the book because we have different versions of it. People say it is added later and all that. Doesn't matter. I have a view that it is written by Valmiki, but it is at par with Ramayana. When Rama goes around and he finishes schooling and then he comes back and tells the father, "Look, I need a gap year. I want to go around the world." Okay, go ahead and do. And he goes around. He comes back completely transformed. He's very subtle, and he's one thing you must understand. When you start learning, listening to Vedantic lectures and attending Vedantic classes, initially you will have discomfort in you. You will have inexplicable weight in your heart if you are very serious about it. It is not very comfortable, It's joyful, but it is, why it is? It is because Vedanta, first thing it does is, it puts a mirror in front of you. Come on, child, see your face. It makes you to look inside you and I, which never bother to look at it. And if you are like me and it's full of dirt inside, the moment you look inside, you get negatively flabbergasted. You say, what the hell is going on? I have so much I missed. So many years of my life I wasted on this. So you go back and worry about it, but this is the Adidam Dukkam. Patanjali said, don't worry about it. So Rama was like that. He was very worried, dull, in a positive way. And Dasharatha didn't know it. He said, okay, Rama is happy. Then Vishwamitra comes in, you know the story. Vishwamitra comes in and asks for Rama to go with him. And then he invites, he calls Rama to come to the hall to meet these saints. And when he comes, very fragile and deep looking. And so both Vasishta and Vishwamitra immediately know. The servant maids tell Dasharatha, Rama is very inexplicable state. He's not playing around with anybody. He's alone. He's aloof and all that. And then Vasishta asks him, why? What is the problem? And then he tells all the problem that you and I have. Well, I see death. People are still enjoying life. I see things going away. Everything is doomed at the end of it. What am I doing in this world? And exactly what Gautama Buddha gone in his mind. And Rama was asking all the questions. And exactly like Arjuna was asking Vishada Yoga. Then Vasishta started explaining in so many ways. And it's a very, very different subject. But what I'm saying is, there he brings a concept which Bhagavan Ramana very eloquently took it to solve this problem that right now we are having. The problem is the bringing up this person in between and Jiva. So what he said was, if you look at these elements of it here, this world of objects, the Jagat, the Panjabhudam, all this grossification, Panchikaranam, all this stuff. So it is happening in a domain, in a space. So in this space is called space, Akasha, a field, a domain. So if you take all that subject about the Jagat and Jagat Karana into that space, it's called Bhudakasham. Bhuta Akasham. Akasham is a space, domain. Basically, it's a subject area. In that, you have all these elements. So he's basically grouping it. Since you understood this seventh part, so you know these two parts, I'm now grouping it into Bhudakasham. Yes, I understand, Bhudakasham. Then he says, the mind that creates something, Chitta Vrittihi, what in the Brahman's perspective, the Chitta Vilasam, with the mind's perspective, it is a reflected consciousness. This is called Chidabhasam. This he call it Chittakasham. Chitta, here chit means chittam, not chit. Chitta means mind. It's a mind space. So first is a physical space, the mind space. What is the mind space? Mind space is the space in which the mental worlds are created. The mental world is cause of the gross world. And this you may not understand right now. How can I think becomes reality? In fact, whatever you think becomes a reality. The Apple iPhone is in somebody's mind. The Last Supper picture is in somebody's mind. So your thought becomes a reality. So all the gross world, the Bhutakasham, come from Chittakasham. Chittakasham, mental space. In Vedanta, we call it Chidabhasham. Abhasham means reflection. The Chittakasham means Chitta Vritti. The mind creates everything. If you think, you are sad, you will be sad. Then you can say, look, that means to be happy, you just think that you are happy. Yes, don't just think. Be convinced you are happy, you will be happy. That conviction doesn't happen easily. Why? Because klesha vritti. Therefore, what you need to do? Klishta. You remember that? So klesha nasam. And all this we learned so far is only for this, to make your Chittakasham to be pure. Now, I want to give a name to Chittakasham, Chidabhasham, as Jiva. Because the Jiva is the one who connects to the Bhuta, this body. I am the Jiva in this body of 170 centimeters tall, dark complexion, living in this world. Someday, my Jiva will say goodbye to this body and go somewhere else. Atma is not going. This reflected consciousness goes around. So this is called Chittakasham. Everything else, in fact, all is in this Chidakasham. Drishi Matraka. So if you take Akasham, the space is into three parts. Chidakasham, which contains everything else. In that there is a Bhutakasham, physical part, Chittakasham, subtle part. So we forget this Chidakasham, the consciousness principle. We think we are independent. Sankhya thought it was independent. And then we deal with this Bhutakasham. Now, why this is happening? Don't ask me that. I've given you a story of a play. The play is happening. God created this play. Nobody can question that. But what is the tool he created to make this thing play happening? If it is a carom board game, what is a board? What is a striker? Or if it is a snooker, what is this? So here the game is happening in a net called space-time domain. And the thing is done by Maya. So Maya is the playground. Maya is a Shakti that creates a playground. The playground happens in space-time domain. I would even add to this because I'm preempting it. Let me see what's the time. I'm preempting it. So if you see, you know what is dimension, right? Dimension is a measure along a vector. So if you take a physical dimension, length, width, and the height. So if you take a book, a page is a two-dimensional one. There's no height. So the letters living in this page has a two-dimensional living. To imagine you are a letter A in a book. He cannot think of jumping to another page. No. It has no question of movement there. Height is not there. So its world is very different. If you add a height to it, volume to it, it becomes a three-dimensional one. Then you get a shape, you get a form. So this is all happening in the space domain. This is simple science, you know it. But then the space domain, it will be dead because it will be a dead matter. If you want movement, we need to define the movement at this time and this time. So the time has to come. Now, two different positions cannot happen. You need some relationship. Therefore, we invent time. The time is the fourth dimension. So if you watch a movie, you got a 3D glasses, right? Three-dimensional glasses. Because you see that the movie comes in a voluminous way. But someday you will have a four-dimensional glasses in a virtual reality. What does four-dimensional glasses means? That I am also traveling not just on a space, going forward and backward and height and low, but I move in time. So the whole world is a four-dimensional geometry for our common mind. When you go into, astrophysics, if you take an aeroplane which just flies from A to Z, it actually in the flight planning, it is a cylinder is defined, a volume is defined. The plane can only go this height, this. There is a kind of a traffic jam conditions. So when they monitor the flight plan in a four-dimensional volume, where it is going and what time. And when you go to space, you do the same thing, four-dimensional volume. Now, we are trying to solve all the problem in a four dimension. But Vedanta says, well, from day one, you have one dimension that is missing in this, which you forget or you refuse to accept it. That the fifth dimension is avidya, ignorance. So you play this game in a domain of space, time, and ignorance. What does it mean? It means everything you measure in this is wrong. Frightening, isn't it? This is why Vedanta sometimes just shakes everything up. What do you mean everything is wrong? Yes, because you are going after fallacy. You're going after things that is not real. That's not Satyam. What do you mean not real? I can touch it. Yes. After some time, it is gone. Well, it was right that time. Yes. Four-dimensional, yes. Fifth dimension is not there. Because if it is only true for some time, it is not Satyam. That means everything I see is not Satyam. Yes. If you see it, it's not Satyam. If God comes in front of me, not Satyam. Are you joking? I pray to Krishna, Krishna comes to me in front of me. Before Arjuna, Krishna showed Vishwarupa Darshana. Not Satyam. Not Satyam. Krishna tells him, be gone. It is anugraham, yes. It is a blessing, yes. The blessing is only take you because Arjuna is a clever student. He asked him, right? I can't see you. If the way that you describe yourself, that you are there every time, everywhere, every position, my eyes cannot behold you. Therefore, Krishna gives him a special eye. This is all metaphorical one, yeah? Special eye to see him. And the special eye is taken back. What happened? He went on a domain, taken away. So why can he say, how can he say God when he appears is not Satyam? It's, I won't say Satyam, it's Mithyatvam. It is a dependent reality. It is giving you the shape because the moment I show myself as this 4 hands with a Shankachakram or a 3 hands or 2 hands with the Sulaidam, whatever, I am embodying to come into your Chittakasam. Because your Chittakasam is limited. You said, show me in your mind. So I come into your mind. Your mind is limited because you have not really understood your own nature. Therefore, I come in a limited form. Saguna Brahman. Because I come in Saguna Brahman, so my wife is praying to Saraswati, my son is praying to something. So if you see, so all these gods can come into my house comfortably because they're all limited within the Chittakasam. So plurality is fine. You can worship 33 million gods. All gods will come to you. Saguna Brahma, that's fine. You see, it is not. I'm not ridiculing anyway. I'm giving you a very great insight because it allows you to worship God in so many forms gradually. But there comes a time you understand Chittakasam is not liberation. But I need the Chittakasam to go to Chittakasam because I have no instrument. You remember that? The purpose of Drishyam is twofold. Bhogam and Apavargam. Bhogam means enjoyment. See, when I say buddhi or mind, chittam, just take it as andakarana. So I use this andakaranam, buddhi, to enjoy the world, bhogam. Why I enjoy the world? Divine play. So if you understand this, you cannot complain from this minute. Any problem comes to your life, you have to deal with this. It's a play. If there is a problem, there must be a solution. Solution could be as simple as just endure it. Don't know. But all this happening within the Chittakasam. But to move from the Chittakasam to Chittakasam, to be a pure Drishimatraha, what is stopping me is my avidya. The avidya is, we are going to learn about avidya in the next Sutra. I didn't even take any Sutra today. Yeah? I'm sorry. Sorry about this. So we have to have one more class to go finish off the 27th. So what I wanted to say today, probably I convey to you, Drishimatraha is the Chinmatraha, Satchit Anandam. Another way I can say this, I'll lead it to a lot more detailed discussion. So we keep it next class. So we saw two things. Drishimatraha is the pure consciousness. I am the pure consciousness. I am in pure consciousness. Everything is in the pure consciousness. But it's not something which I need to see it, because the seer itself is a consciousness. I need to be in it. Therefore, to be in it, you are already in it. To realize that you are in it, you must have the Shraddha. Therefore, there is no need to ask for any more physical, pratyaksha or inductive proof. We just go by the Agama. The second point we learned, the Purusha, in Bhagavachanam, Purushaha is fine. But if you take that Purushaha, then you take it as a Jiva. Then it is fine. So I must really take care of myself. But if I take Purusha as Atma Tattvam, which I prefer to take it, then the Mukti or Moksha is needed for, not for the Atma Tattvam, but the Jiva Tattvam. The Jiva Bhavam that we have. The Jiva Bhavam is this ego. The ego comes from Asmita. Asmita works with the Buddhi. Therefore, that is what I need to get liberated, uncoupled. Samyoga happens to that. Therefore, to remove the Samyoga, I must find out everything that is connecting these two. That is all the kupais, all this filth. That is, I need to remove it. To remove this, I must do Ashtanga Yoga. And that's what Patanjali is going to say later. So probably I'll stop it here. And maybe in the next class, we take those next 5 sutras in one go. And then the class after that, we can start the Ashtanga Yoga class. So let's take the Shanti Padha. Om Ashadoma Satgamaya
Asadoma Sadgamaya
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya
Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.